Good morning. Thank you for tuning in. This is a cold and icy day, I know. Thank you for being here. On behalf of the Tennessee Higher Education Commission and the Tennessee FAFSA Challenge, we are here to talk about FAFSA best practices. I'm Suzette Telly, the statewide services coordinator for THEC-TSAC, and I also work with Gear Up Tennessee, and I will be your host today.
I'm Tiffany Rice with Advise Tennessee College Advisor at Dyer County High School.
I'm Brianna Morton with the Ayers Foundation at Riverside High School and a team lead for Hardin County High School.
Hi, I'm Rita Tochetta. I'm one of the outreach specialists in East Tennessee for THEC and TSAC.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessie Green, and I'm the coordinator of College Access Communications for the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. Back to you, Suzette.
Thank you, Ms. Jessie. As you can see, we've got a good slate of presenters here today and a lot of good information to share. So let's just jump right in. Our agenda today, we're going to very quickly go over exactly what the FAFSA Challenge is. We're going to name our current FAFSA champions, and then we're going to hear some best practices from Dyer County High School, Riverside High School. Rita is going to share some of the things she's learned in her THEC and TSAC outreach work. Then we're going to launch, it's like hot off the presses, the Tennessee FAFSA Frenzy social media toolkit, and show you where you can find that. And then we should have time at the end for some questions. So the Tennessee FAFSA Challenge, we created it just to recognize those of you who are working in the field of FAFSA completion as an honor for you, to say like, thank you for all the hard work that you do. There are 3 different ways that you can be recognized. The first is as FAFSA champion. Last year we had 71 FAFSA champions, so we were very excited in our first year to have that many. We hope to actually have more this year. So there are 2 ways you can become a FAFSA champion. The first is to increase your Tennessee Promise applicant FAFSA completion rate by 5 percentage points or more compared to the previous academic year, and that's as of the Tennessee Promise FAFSA deadline. The second way is to have 90% or more of your Tennessee Promise applicants complete the FAFSA as of the Tennessee Promise FAFSA deadline. So last year that was actually 95%. So we listened to you, we decreased that by 5%, hoping that more of you would be eligible to become FAFSA champions. There are 2 other ways you can be recognized. Highest completion is awarded to schools with the highest overall Tennessee Promise applicant FAFSA completion rate. And again, that's as of the Tennessee Promise FAFSA deadline. And we'll recognize 1 school in the large, medium, and small categories, one each in each category, unless we have a tie, as we did last year. Also, Most Improved is awarded to schools with the Most Improved Tennessee Promise applicant FAFSA completion rate compared to the previous year as of the Tennessee Promise FAFSA deadline. Again, we'll recognize 1 school in each category, large, medium, and small, unless we have a tie. So these are our current FAFSA champions. Again, hot off the presses. I just got this morning. So we're up to 12 FAFSA champions. So congratulations to all of you who are on this list. And I know we're going to add many, many more before March 1 when our FAFSA deadline rolls around for Tennessee Promise students. Okay, so I know enough of me talking. We're here to talk about FAFSA best practices. So we're going to just jump right in with Dyer County High School. They are an Advise Tennessee school. They had 252 Tennessee Promise applicants this year. They are currently, as of the data I got this morning, 73.8% FAFSA completion of their Tennessee Promise students, 98.8% FAFSA submission. Last year, they were a FAFSA champion and also Most Improved Large School. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Ms. Tiffany.
So at Dyer County, we always set an internal school deadline of December the 31st. And this year we actually added in a personal goal of 50% of completed FAFSAs for our students. We still talk to our parents about the March 1st deadline, but we just encourage that December the 31st so that the students don't wait to the last minute. We also do an incentive. This year we did 15-minute break and ice cream for any student who had a completed FAFSA by December the 1st. We've tried several incentives throughout the years, but so far this one has been the best one. I think we were actually over the 50% by the December the 1st deadline, so we were really impressed with our students. We also push the FAFSA from October, November, December through the two-step process. So creating the FSA ID, submitting their portion, and then of course the parent portion. Next slide.
Sorry.
That's okay. So in step one, I always do a small group of students. I meet with them and help them create their ID, and I submit their portion. I also send home a letter with step-by-step instructions on how the parent can get back in to complete their portion. And the reason that we go ahead and submit this without it being completed is so that they don't lose their progress, but also the student now knows how to make that ID and is familiar with the FAFSA process. So we feel like they will go home and actually help the parent complete it versus us having to be on top of those parents. It's worked really well just based on our percentages. The students are very comfortable after they have gotten in there, completed their portion, and created their FSA ID. On step two, we focus on the parent portion. We send out constant reminders and information by email, newsletters, and announcements. I also host a FAFSA night. Now, I usually don't hold that FAFSA night until usually mid-November. And the reason why is because I want to get as many students' portion completed. So when that parent and student comes in, I'm only asking for 30 minutes of their time versus an hour or longer to complete the entire FAFSA. With parents, time is very valuable. And as we know, it's just hard to get them in for a long period of time. It's the same thing as the parent meetings. You know, with having that student portion completed, I can get them in during a lunch break or when they get off work really quick, just to get their portion done, and it's just a lot quicker. This process that we've used at our county, we've used it for the past couple of years. It's really worked well with us. We focus on the FAFSA the first 3 months, just so that we have a smaller amount to work on in January and February, and it's more manageable. It also gives us time to start working on the verifications.
All right, thank you. Thank you. That was some good info. Jesse, do we have any questions that have come in so far? Oh, good. Okay, so let's move on to Riverside High School. They are an Ayers Foundation school. They had 95 Tennessee Promise applicants. 85.3% as of this morning FAFSA completion of their Tennessee Promise students, 92.6 FAFSA submission. Also last year they were FAFSA champions and received highest completion for a medium school. So Brianna.
Well, thank you. We start with trying to do every student parent meeting that we can for the FAFSA individually, but a couple of different things that we've tried over the years to kind of get more involvement and make sure that students are hearing it. So I'm going to kind of cover a couple of the events that we have done. The first week of school, we had an event where we had seniors divided into 5 groups. We partnered with our TCAT, our local TCAT, and then our UT Martin Parsons Center. We had 5 different sessions. One session was making up and setting a personal email because a lot of times the students only had a school email, so we found that that was helpful. Another session was for them to create their FSA ID, a session where they heard from UT Martin, a session where they heard from the TCAT and the programs that they offered, and then another session that was just finishing up anything that you missed or if you had questions, and they transitioned between those for 30 minutes. Another event that we tried in 2021, so after COVID, we're responsible for helping all our students, our graduates who are in college with completing the FAFSA as well. So our school asked us to keep visitors to a minimum during the school day. So we had FAFSA events in the evenings, a couple of nights a week. We scheduled approximately 10 families per hour, and we're able to divide them into 2 different computer labs. And then we did sessions at 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if they already had their FSA ID created, we were able to kind of push them through a little bit faster and get those FAFSAs completed with them as well. We like to partner with athletic programs and offer FAFSA nights before ball games. If a student and their parent completes the FAFSA, student gets free admission to a game. We did that this year at Hardin County, and we were able to offer to the first 30 students, if you're competitive, the first 30 students got free admissions to the ball game. Always partnering with TSAC reps, local colleges have been great partnerships for us. For large or small events, we utilize TSAC reports to help track who doesn't have a FAFSA complete or who has a blank EFC. We do classroom presentations during personal finance, and that's primarily for us at Riverside. That's primarily junior students. but to go ahead and start discussing the FAFSA, financial aid, post-secondary plans, so that they're seeing information about the FAFSA more often and earlier. We also do the FAFSA forecaster during that time, and then just kind of discuss any future plans that they have. We attend future freshman nights, freshman orientation, middle school, college and career fairs, project graduation, anytime that we can be seen and be talking about post-secondary plans with students and parents. We try to make sure that we're a part of that. We attend future freshman nights, freshman orientation, so that we are able to talk to larger groups and get them just to be thinking about GPA, ACT, all that, those things as well, so that we're also talking about FAFSA. And then we send out a lot of messaging to students and parents to remind them of requirements and opportunities for community service, FAFSA deadlines, verification, and all those things. And then also identifying students who may be classified as independent or homeless. The earlier the better, so that when we're having those conversations with them, maybe we're not asking for parent information. If we already know that they're classified as independent, that makes it a little easier to complete the FAFSA as well.
All right, thank you, Brianna. Jesse, any questions?
Yes, we do have a few questions in the chat. The first one is specifically for Dyer County, wondering if you could share the letter that you send home to your parents.
Yes, I can. It's just a basic, the beginning just shows why it's important to complete the FAFSA. And then the second part is the step-by-step on how to get back in to do those corrections. So yeah, I can share that. That'll be fine.
Yeah, if you want to send it to me, I can actually send it out with the, when we send out the recording of this presentation. That way everybody could get it, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Tiffany. The next question is, if you have all of the information you need to complete the FAFSA, how long should it typically take?
I think if they already have an FSA ID, the FAFSA, typically about 15 minutes. If they don't have an FSA ID, around 30 minutes or so, depends on if we have to. A lot of times I'm sitting down and helping a student or a parent create an email as well. So about 30 minutes on average per FAFSA or less.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions. Keep those coming in the chat. We'll address those at the end of each section. Okay, next up, I shared this map of our THEC outreach team to show you. Rita Trichetta is here with us for those in yellow. So those of you who are lucky enough to be yellow counties, you have Rita, THEC outreach person. But I mean, you'd be lucky to have any one of these folks. They're all good people, and they span the state sharing all their information. So Miss Rita, take it away.
All right, good morning. So my goal is to cover a couple of issues that may arise while helping students with the FAFSA process. So even though I have, sorry, about 18 slides, I like my visual props, and I promise it's not going to take that long because I really have about 4 main tips and tricks that I want to talk about. So the first one is FSA ID issues and glitches. The second one is FAFSA glitches. Number 3 would be submitting the FAFSA without an FSA ID. And number 4 is pulling FAFSA report. On this slide, I just want to stress March 1st priority deadline is coming up for TSAA and Promise. Next slide. All right. So on this slide, FSA ID timing out. This is a thing. This happens. So if a student takes too long answering a question, you might get a pink pop-up box or a red pop-up box saying, hey, there's been an error. The only way to fix it is close it and start all over again. So the FAFSA doesn't actually tell you, the FSA ID doesn't actually tell you that you're timing out. You're going to time out if you take too long with the question. So here are a few tips. Number 1, we found this very useful and it worked pretty well. If you're having a workshop, actually have the student create their FSA ID on their phone. So instead of having them constantly look at their phone and their computer and be distracted, they're actually creating it on their phone. So it really helps creating the FSA ID on their cell phone. The second one is I have a few schools that have created a form that has all of the questions pretty much on that FSA ID. So all of your challenge questions They let the student pick out the 4 that they might be able to use and answer those, maybe create a password in advance and have that information before they even start the FSA ID. Sometimes that helps speed up the process. And lastly, you don't have to verify both email and phone number. Next slide, please. I'm going to explain how to do this. All right, so on this slide, when you're creating an account, if your student does not have a mobile phone number, or maybe they don't have their phone with them, have the student enter the email and skip the phone number. Next slide. All right, on this slide, just make sure the student does not mark the box regarding the mobile phone recovery, or you will be asked to enter a phone number, and that kind of defeats the purpose. So just skip it completely. Next slide. All right. So if the student does not have an email, or maybe your school has problems receiving email, maybe the Wi-Fi or just the emails aren't coming in. I've had workshops where they just wouldn't show up. Skip the email. Next slide. And use the mobile phone number instead. As a reminder, under communication preferences, they have to select the by postal mail option before they can proceed to the next step. So if they're admitting this, they need to not check that box. The student will be able to actually enter their email on the FAFSA application later in order to receive that confirmation page that they need. Next slide. If the student omits either email or phone number, this will allow the student to just verify one type of communication. So this is an example of what it would look like. So they don't actually have to verify both, and it will really save some time for the student. And then next slide. All right. If your student is having FSA ID issues, that's okay. They can go ahead and apply for the FAFSA with their personal identifiers. This will allow the student to enter the first name, the last name, the date of birth, and their social. Next slide, please. All right, so once they start the FAFSA, they still may have some glitches. So you're not escaping those glitches. And to my knowledge, this hasn't been fixed yet. So if the student receives, again, that red box saying there's an unknown error, or perhaps they're getting the FAFSA's unavailable, try having the student clear out the browser, clearing, the history, maybe switch browsers. So if you're using Chrome, maybe go to Foxfire or Edge, change the computer or use your cell phone. Worst case scenario, just start all over again. There is a button that allows you to start all over again. Next slide. All right, not sure exactly why I added this slide, but as a reminder, to be eligible for Tennessee Promise, the student has to complete the correct FAFSA. So if you're looking at your FAFSA report and you're missing a student, it could be because they filled out the wrong FAFSA. So make sure they're filling out the correct FAFSA. So if they're going to school fall and spring, 23-24 FAFSA. Next slide. All right, so the next couple of slides are examples on how to submit a FAFSA without the FSA ID. So ideally, we want the student to create that FSA ID, but I get it. You may have a student that's not able to do it, and they're probably stressing at this point. It's okay. Don't let them stress. Have them fill out the FAFSA without that FSA ID, and we're going to submit it without an FSA ID, so without that electronic signature. So on this one, let's see. I think I want you to hit next slide because you're going to click on other options. So once you click on other options, it takes you to this page. You're going to select print a signature page. And then the next slide. I'm not used to not being able to hit click. So thanks Suzette, for clicking me forward. All right, you'll see the signature page. So you'll actually click print signature page. Once you hit print, you'll be able to have the student and or parent sign. And the next page is mail it to the address that's on this form. And then go ahead and hit next for me. Yeah. And on this page, you'll be able to submit your FAFSA. So I have a lot of people that stop at the print signature form. So after you print that signature form, make sure you go back and click submit the FAFSA because you want that to be submitted before March the 1st. And next slide. All right. So my last tip is if you have access to FAST, make sure you're pulling your reports. To monitor FAFSA activity for students at your high school, log into the FAST system, select reports, and select either the Tennessee Promise report or FAFSA by high school report. What's the difference? Next, please, Suzette.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. All right, if the majority of your high school seniors completed the Tennessee Promise application, this is the report that I would pull, the Tennessee Promise High School report. This report will show you Tennessee Promise students that have completed the FAFSA. So if you're looking at your report, you can see on the red, well, the little arrow pointing down, this box where it says FAFSA app date. If the student has completed the 2023-2024 FAFSA, there should be a date. If there's not a date, that means the student hasn't completed the FAFSA. And next slide is your FAFSA by high school report. This one's a little bit different. You can still check to see if the student has submitted a FAFSA by looking at the column under FAFSA app date, but your student will not appear on this report until the 2023-2024 FAFSA has actually connected with an ACT record that we have in FAST, and we match that by their social security number. So I don't recommend pulling this report unless you just want to. I really like the Tennessee Promise report because it's a little bit easier to use, because not all of your students will show up on this one, because some of the matching that FAFSA record and the ACT we do manually. So check your Tennessee Promise report if you can. And if you need help pulling your report. So again, FAST is your eGrants report. So your FAST report, if you have questions or need help, please feel free to reach out to any of your outreach specialists. We would love to help you. And I promise I'm done.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yes, you did. Any questions come in for Rita?
Yes, we have several really great questions. First, does anyone know how long it takes FSA ID to time out?
Kind of. So I tried it just for an example, so I could get screenshots. I would say I spent 15 minutes trying to create just my username, my password, and I delayed the longest on my phone number. And it was really weird because I finally got something saying, hey, you're about to time out. And I'm like, oh, this is different. That's only on the FAFSA. They've never done that on the FSA ID. And I'm like, maybe it's changed. As soon as I clicked that and put my phone number in, I got the red pop-up saying an unknown error had occurred. And that was just 15 minutes. So I would really try to have them not stress over the questions. Just take their time, but don't stress. But you're going to be timed out.
Thank you, Rita. The next question is, can we get the contact information for the outreach specialist for each region? And I'm sure, Suzette, that we would be happy to send that out with our recording today.
Yes, we would. And you can also find it on College for TN, that I know is under Money for College. And then what is it, Jesse? Tennessee?
It's the first tab. It's the About Financial Aid section under the Money for College tab. We have all of the outreach specialists and their phone and email.
Yeah, so we fixed it where you can actually look up each one by region and then click on directly there from College for TN. You can click on their email and I believe their phone number as well, and call right from your computer.
Yes.
Right. Another really good question, and we've gotten this one before. Often the size of our class has changed by this time of year, with students going to other programs or going to our recovery school. If our class size is lower now, do we just let our TSEC rep know, or what is the best way to handle this?
So for us, we can't change your numbers. Normally, this is something that we let either AIRS or Tennessee Achieves. They normally handle those numbers, unless Suzette, you know otherwise, or Jesse. Like we can move them. Like if you want to reach out to your TSEC, your outreach specialist, we can take them off your list. Just let us know where they're going to and we can remove them. But I would also let either, Tennessee Achieves know, if that's your partnering organization, let them know that your number has changed.
We can definitely, I know that this question has popped up before because everyone wants to have accurate numbers specifically for the FAFSA champion and their status there. We'll actually get a better answer for you and include that in the recording as well. We have a few more questions. Y'all are great with the questions. I love questions. How long from the time the student submits the FAFSA does it take to show up on the FAFSA report?
It generally takes about a week. Am I right, Suzette? Jesse, do you guys agree? I think it generally takes about 3 to 5 business days for FAFSA to process it before they send it to us. So I would say, a week after it's been processed.
Yeah, I would agree. 7 to 10 days, because the state also has this cleaning process they go through, and then they send it on to us. So we're always at least a week behind the FAFSA tracker and other national tools.
The next question is for Dyer County. Do you actually submit the FAFSA with the student info or just save it until you get the rest of the information?
I actually submit the student portion. So I'm getting a blank EFC, and then when the parent goes back in, then it becomes completed.
Awesome, great answer. Last question that we have here, do you have a copy of the paper handout where students can enter their FSA ID info to put it into their account?
Yes, I've got a copy that we've made. I'm not sure if that's something that you could use, and I actually have some from different schools that I could share if that's what you guys would like. I could send it to Suzette and Jesse. You guys can kind of look over it. Yeah?
Yes, I would say yes. We can send it all out with the recording.
Okay.
The more the merrier. I think all the tools that we can give you in your arsenal, the better you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rita got a shout out for being the best. We all know that Rita is the best. But then there's one more question. What is the difference between the submitted and completed FAFSA percentage rates? Great question. Who wants to tackle it? Do that.
I was thinking in my head, like, what is the answer? So sometimes they're submitted and they're not complete. Like maybe the person forgot to hit submit, or maybe there's a piece missing. Maybe they had to mail off that signature page and it isn't officially complete yet. So that's really the difference between completed and submitted. Oftentimes they're totally missing the parent portion because maybe the student did it at school and the parent wasn't available. So we rely on them to go home and get their parent to fill out that part. But until they do, it's still an incomplete FAFSA. Anybody want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think that's great. If they don't have a calculated EFC just for this award year, then it will be incomplete. It would be considered submitted and not completed.
Okay. And they would need to go in and do some sort of
enter parent portion, or a signature is missing, or maybe it's just waiting on a signature page from the maybe a student, if snail's mail mailed out that signature page, that would make it submitted and not completed.
We've had some issues with disabled FSA IDs for students and parents this year. And in the past, we mailed those in, to FAFSA. But it has been helpful if you've got a local college that the financial aid office can process those signature pages. And I found that to be faster, where we've waited months for FSA ID to process. We can take it to a local college or have the student or parent take it to a local college financial aid office, and that's processed usually within a week or so. So that's been faster for us too.
Brianna, is that only if they're going to attend that college or university, or is that universal?
So the college needs to be listed on the FAFSA if they're going to process it for you. Yes. So you don't have to attend, but they need to at least be listed on the FAFSA.
I have heard from some schools that it seems like the signature page is taking even longer this year than, it's always taken a long time, but maybe even longer than in the past. Have you heard anything like that, Rita?
Longer, but I agree completely with Brianna. So if you have a college rep at your FAFSA workshop, let them have your signature pages. And again, this is not something they have to do, but if you get in their good graces and say, please, can you take this to your financial aid office and upload these for us? In most cases, they'll do it for you, but it just really helps out with that process, because the FSA ID signature page Well, the signature page is just a mess. Yeah.
Thank you.
And
That's
if you
all.
have to mail them in, I have priority mailed them. So I have a tracking number.
Yeah. That's
And
perfect.
that has been more helpful as well if you have to mail them into FSA ID. Otherwise, yeah, we've tried to just try to get it to a financial aid office to process it for us.
Rita, can you clarify that the FAFSA is not complete until they get the congratulations email? Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. You may get a congratulations and you're still missing parent information, or you may not have the calculated EFC. So as far as submitted, that is correct. Like for that submitted FAFSA, that's what you need. That's the requirement for Tennessee Promise, is a submitted FAFSA. So that congratulations, all you need, that email. However, for it to be complete, you have to have a calculated EFC.
And then the last thing on here, would you mind to repeat that about the colleges processing the signature page?
So I've had a couple of parents that have come in that maybe went to college or had a student loan, had another student that has come through and their FSA ID has been disabled. So the process, if you're trying to get that FSA ID fixed, can be a little bit time consuming. And you can do the chat help tool on the FAFSA, and the parent will receive an email from FSA ID, and they'll have to send in a driver's license and some personal identifiers and this kind of thing. And it takes about 7 to 10 days, business days or longer, to fix that. And then we're also counting on the parent to, hey, remember to go back in and check this, and remember to send these things. So where we want them to also correct their FSA ID if possible, so that it's not a problem down the road for them or the student. The signature page is a faster way. When you get to the end of the FAFSA and you have the option for how to submit or how you would like to sign it, we will print out the signature page, have the parent sign that, and then we can submit it to, like for us, some of the local colleges that have helped us, TCAT Crump, to their financial aid office, or Jackson State or UT Martin. We can send that page in with the wet signature to them, and they've been able to process that for us within like a week or so, where, like I said, when we mail it in, it's taken months, 2 or 3 months, and we've had to mail it in more than once. And I kind of learned that if I'm going to mail it into FSA ID, then it needs to be with a tracking number, and I usually priority mail it so I can keep up with where it is. And that's kind of helped not take as long. But the financial aid office, if you've got somebody that's a good contact, has been very, very helpful for us to get those processed faster. I don't know if that helped.
I think that helps a lot. I don't think I've ever heard that before. So that's good info. And so the student does have to have that college listed on their FAFSA as one of their choices.
Oh,
right?
yes. Yes. Sorry. Yes.
And have you ever experienced colleges accepting the signature page attached to an email from you?
I have not ever tried that. Most have requested a wet signature. And so I will do whatever makes it easier for everyone, if that means mailing that to them or hand delivering it if it's close enough, or having the student or parent go by and do that. But most have requested that they prefer the wet signature. So I try to just try to do it that way.
Awesome. Well, thank you, panel, for your great answers. And thank you, everyone, for your great questions. Definitely keep them coming in. We definitely still have some time, but I want to introduce to you all this year's social media toolkit for our FAFSA Frenzy. So as you know, FAFSA Frenzy is this great time of year where we're trying our best to get all of the FAFSAs we can possibly get in before the March 1st deadline. So we have developed at the statewide services level here at THEC a social media toolkit that you can use across all of different platforms to lure your students in, to advocate for those students, and try to get as many FAFSAs completed as possible. So you can actually locate this in addition to us sending it out to you today with the recording from this webinar. You can access that collegefortn.org. And if you go underneath school resources and past the college events, you'll find Tennessee FAFSA Frenzy. Scroll down to the bottom of that page and the social media toolkit will be loaded there. This is just a sampling of some of the graphics that we have that you can post on your social media accounts. You can also use these if you wanted to print them out and post them throughout the school, just as some reminders as well. You are free to do with this social media kit whatever you would like for your students. So really great messages. We also have a Finish the FAFSA week, which is the week of President's Day. And that is just a focused in week that we are going to try to get as many last minute pushes to finish the FAFSA as possible. So there are some specifically targeted messaging and graphics for that Finish the FAFSA week during February 20th through the 24th. This is a page out of the toolkit, so you can see it has a graphic available for you, but we also have placed in here some sample text. So if you maybe having some trouble coming up with some messaging, you are free to use this. We also have a hashtag TN FAFSA Challenge. You can also do hashtag TN Promise, or you can tag us at TN Higher Ed or at TN Promise as well. So that's just a few good ways to use these templates. They also have them downloadable for Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, since those are different sizes based on the platforms.
Okay, so I know we've already covered quite a few questions, but please keep them coming in. We're here as long as you have questions.
One of my coworkers texts to remind me the signature page also works well if you have like a parent that's undocumented, like maybe the student has a social and you're able to do the FSA ID, but the parent does not. The signature page and sending that in to the college works well for that too. I forgot, not just disabled, but also just maybe undocumented.
That's great. So we don't have any other questions at this time, is that correct?
No other questions now.
Okay, so I'm going to keep them. I mean, if you have questions, please keep sending them in, but I did want to go ahead and share our contact info for all of our presenters today. You guys have done a great job. I hope you guys, as attendees, have gotten something out of this. I know I've learned a few things myself before today's presentation. I wanted to thank all of my presenters. I think everybody's done a great job. And thank you. I know many of you are at home, not at school. So thank you for taking the time out of your day on your snow day or ice day to join us and learn a little bit more about FAFSA. So I'm going to try to figure out how to stop sharing on this thing. I can't stop.